Hello, my name is Echo. Welcome to my glorious channel. I mostly do art things here, and today I'm going to take you on a tour of my digital sketchbook. Not all of it, some things will be kept private. So up until maybe about a year ago, all of my artwork, or at least like more than 90% of it, was done traditionally, and then a little over a year ago I purchased this. I got this as part of a Black Friday sale, which is why it's so freaking fancy. I love him. His name is Hippogriff. He is my son. I've made quite a few videos over the last year using this iPad and this Apple Pencil, and a program called Procreate. If you prefer traditional art that's done by hand, I also have 10 other videos of sketchbook tours that are done with traditional artwork. Also, before I get too far into this, I want to say thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Skillshare is an amazing site where you can learn all kinds of fancy knowledge for your brain on pretty much every topic you could think of. You can learn programs, you can learn cooking. It's kind of like a place where you can watch YouTube tutorials, but actually done by professionals who know what the fudge they're talking about and who aren't trying to please some freaking algorithm. I'm currently using it to learn After Effects because it's been quite a few years since I've used After Effects. A lot's changed. Also, if you go here and sign up with this code, you can get 2 months of it for free. We have also created a private Facebook group, so if you sign up and then screen cap your confirmation and then send that to me in my Instagram DMs, I will add you to a private Facebook group. I will be putting all of that information in the description. Got my artist glove on. We are ready to dive into this. Maybe I should show the very first drawing that I ever did when I got this device. So this one's not in my main digital sketchbook folder. This one is actually in my sketches folder, which is a folder where I keep stuff that I probably am not going to include in this video because it uses photo references or because it contains some kind of like nudity or something graphic that YouTube won't let me show. Yay! When I drew this, I had this like water lily pattern in my brain that I couldn't get out. I feel like I still haven't gotten it out of my brain. It's just kind of sitting in there. And I think I'm just gonna have to find a reference image to be able to draw them, but here I was trying. But now let's jump over into the actual folder. The very first drawing that I have at the very bottom of this folder is called the Red Airport. With this one, I mainly wanted to just do something with a lot of really warm reds, and I was stuck waiting in an airport, so that's the reason behind the title. I decided to keep it in my main folder just because I do eventually plan to go back to it, but as it stands, it is unfinished. Probably one of my favorite things about Procreate is that by default, it creates time-lapse videos of your artwork that you can easily export and then show to people. It's just kind of a cool feature. This next one I titled Almost Lance because I had just started getting into the show Voltron on Netflix. Pretty good. I like it a lot. Still have not caught up. I know Shiro has white hair. Also, did you know that Shiro is like really freaking young? I mean, he's 27, he's almost 30, but he's not old. This one was not intended to be Lance. I was legit just drawing a random character. This character was just too close to Lance for me to not associate Lance with this drawing. Ooh, is this on one layer? Oh Jesus, it is. I drew this whole thing on one layer. What is wrong with me? Honestly though, this is one that I probably won't come back to. It just kind of exists as a scribble. This one is one of my favorites. I titled this one Candy Water. Something that I am not particularly good at and that I really want to get better at is color. I am terrible at color. I made this when I was in London with Hannah and Crystal for New Year's, almost a year ago. I have different water textures, different spray paint brushes for the freckles. I did call this finished even though I didn't get to make much of a background, and I did not completely finished coloring the line art. This is one that I'm probably not going to go back to, but I'm okay with that. I'm okay with this one being just a little bit unfinished. I feel like this one was pretty inspired by my friend Chloe Dungate and her brand. Her brand is very mermaid-esque. It's a good color palette. I really like it. This next one is called A Big Ol' Gender. With this one, I just wanted to draw a character who was very inspired by androgyny, but not necessarily androgynous. I wanted to draw a character that looked like the kind of person who would just say gender. The kind of person who looks very comfortable operating outside of the gender binary. I'm very happy with how the line art on this one came out because it's much more like bony and sunken than a lot of my other artwork, and I like drawing my characters bony and sunken, but I didn't finish coloring it. This is another one that I would like to go back and finish, but probably won't. Did I do it all in one layer? Yes, I did. Like a stupid. This one is called A Rose in Cyan. I named my artwork in a very poetic but pretentious way. This is another one where I was trying to just experiment with color. I wanted this entire drawing to have a rose and cyan color palette. So I did like a brief blocking out of what kind of colors I would have used in what areas, and then I blended them with various cyan and rose colors. A lot of this was also based on my personal relationship with Mexican and Spanish beauty standards. I don't know if it makes any sense, but there's a lot of like my family in this drawing. Oh, I don't know if I can show this one. So this is a drawing called Purple Girl. I found this really amazing artist on Twitter named Rachel Sheffield, FireFlyRaye, and her artwork and coloring is just so amazing, and I wanted to try and do something similar just in terms of the way that she treats color. These pictures came from her Twitter. I hope that she can forgive me for including them in this video. Thus, I am trying to properly credit this person and tell you to go follow them. I got really freaking close to the end, and then I gave up, which resulted in a character that looks a fair bit like Zuko from Avatar: The Last Airbender, and that's all I can think of when I see this drawing. This one is just an attractive anime man, TM. Once again, no purpose or reason. I just wanted to draw like an attractive anime dude with dark hair. I feel like there's probably more that I could do with this, but this is something that I have just kind of completely called done at this point, and it's something that I do not plan on coming back to. It's done. It's okay. I can do better than this, right? Right? The next thing I have in here is called Perfect Circles. I was kind of brainstorming like animation comic ideas, and I started to draw some like really simplistic characters, and the first two characters that I came up with were named Kevin and Dale. Kevin's nickname is Kelp. And then on the second page we have Lisa. I knew I wanted Lisa to have a beanie, but I was having a lot of difficulty drawing a very simplistic beanie, and this is what I ended up with. Also, I imagined her having a wheelchair. I don't know why, it just felt like it made sense. The reason the comic slash animation would have been called Perfect Circles is just because of their heads. I just wanted to make really simplistic characters with circle heads. Except for Dale. I don't know what his head shape is. Next we have Chewy Fun. I really like the style that Chewy Bunny is drawn in, so I wanted to try and draw a bunch of other animals in that style to just kind of help conceptualize what that might look like. So I drew a chinchilla, a bird, and a dog. The bird needs a tail. These are actually just a bunch of under sketches. I was planning to go back and add line art, but I never did. Next I have a thing called Cute Jar. This is so far from finished. This is not even an under sketch. This is like a basic layout plan for a drawing that I wanted to do and never did. This one I will probably never follow through with just because I feel like it has a very specific look in my head that I can't figure out how to put on paper. So this is as close to existing as this drawing will ever come. Next, I have a thing called Watermelon Ice Cream, and it's just a really cute picture of me and Phoenix eating popsicles. Phoenix is actually helping me record this video today, so she's over there, not behind me. This is one of my favorite drawings that I have done with this device. The bright magenta background is freaking beautiful. They are like freaking adorable YouTube couple, me and my laptop. After I drew that, I started working on another self-portrait kind of drawing. This one is called MySpace, and it was never finished. I wanted to make a drawing where I was like floating in space, and this was as close as I got. This is another drawing that is just on my backlog list of things to finish that I'm never gonna have time to. Also, I realized I don't usually show my shoes in drawings of me, so there you go. I wear a lot of boots. Next we have Marshy Boy. With this one I just wanted to make something that looked really spacey and glowy, and I was really freaking into Marshmallow. Marshmallow is a pretty cool musician person that I felt like drawing. I like his aesthetic. After I found out all of the stuff about Melanie Martinez, I booted her out of my life and replaced her with Marshmallow. And this is just some Marshmallow fan art. Nebulous. So freaking cute. This one doesn't have a title because it was never finished. There's this one color palette website that I like to play around with, and I found this really cool color palette that I really liked, and so I was trying to color with it, but I couldn't make the colors work, so I gave up. Next we have Bad Dog. This is one that I'm still working on. The time lapse on this one takes forever. I drew this after watching a scary movie on Netflix that had like a really cool looking monster, so I wanted to make my own. But I wanted to make it the same way that I make charcoal drawings, which involves a lot of smudging. When I use this process, it takes a long freaking time, but I end up with a very beautiful, very detailed picture. And this was a monster that I wanted to spend a lot of time with. I am very happy with how it's coming out so far, but it's not finished, so let's move on to the next one. Weird. This is a self-drawing that I made back when The Odd Ones Out was going through all of that ish with rice gum. If you don't follow any of the animators or anyone really closely on Twitter, you may have missed it, but a ton of people participated. It was a bit of a Twitter event. It was just a fun scribble that I did so that I could jump on a bandwagon that looked really fun. That's all. This one is called Nice Face. I'm actually very happy with this one, particularly the eyes. Look at those freaking eyes. I'm very proud of how these eyes came out. I feel like I let someone else name this character and they named her Mare. The actual face sketch for this one really didn't take that long because I really wanted to focus on the color and the blending more so than like the initial drawing. And I was pretty happy with how it came out in the first place. My two biggest problems when it comes to shading the human body is that I almost never know where to put shadows and I almost never make them dark enough. The only way that I have found to compensate for this is to just go over the shadows over and over and over and over with light strokes until it darkens it to the point where it actually looks like a shadow. I made the lips orange because I wanted this entire drawing to be very warm. That's why there's tons of yellows, peaches, and oranges. That sounds like a fruit salad. That's also why I made the background like a desaturated blue-green, because it makes the center image seem even warmer because contrast. Color theory, bum 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 bum. I also made all of the highlights yellow tinted so that they seem even freaking brighter. I'm really freaking happy with this drawing. I like this one so much. This is just some line art that I did nothing with. This was kind of meant to be a slightly simplified kind of anime style crossed with like my personal style. Even though this one didn't really go anywhere, I'm very happy with how this came out so far. Stop talking, move on to the next one. For this one, I found this really cool gradient that's meant to help you color things that are meant to be holographic. So I scribbled out this beautiful demon elf character, and then I tried coloring his hair using that color spectrum. It did come out really freaking pretty, but I wouldn't necessarily say it's holographic looking. I wanted to color the eyes and the horns and add some shadows, but after I finished the hair, I just kind of like moved on to other things. But I did make a follow-up drawing where I recolored it because this really cool picture was just kind of floating through my timeline, so I snagged it and used it as a color palette sample. If I'm right, the person in this photo is a cosplayer. I will link all of their Twitter stuff in the description. Next, we have a drawing I titled String. I don't remember why. I was having a lot of fun with the color. I thought this drawing was done, but now that I'm looking at it, I'm realizing that I did not finish any of the jewelry and the eyes are not completely done. This is another one of those things that I feel like is very my style. I like drawing female characters with these like really big eyes and like dark lips. Also pigtails. I really like drawing pigtails. The entire color palette for this one ended up being purple, cool gray, and a really saturated magenta because I wanted to see if I could make highlights using very high saturation rather than a high brightness. So rather than a light pastel, it's like a mid-tone magenta. I don't actually know what I'm talking about. The border came out a bit barbed wire looking, which I really like. It's very unlikely that I will go back and add anything else to this. There is more I could do with the eyes, but this is where it's gonna sit. When I make things like this, it makes me feel like I can do things with color. I just need to practice. This one doesn't have a title. It's just my pink pineapple. I am not really a big fan of the color of pineapples, but I do really like them as an aesthetic. Pineapples are just like really freaking cute. That is just adorable. And this was just a color palette that I really liked, so I decided to put it in a pineapple. This one really is just a nothing drawing. It's a color palette that I like in a shape that I like. With these ones I was trying to design some face makeup. I ended up tracing a terrible photograph of myself. So I have these body paints in black, red, and white, and I was kind of playing around with a couple ideas trying to figure out what I wanted to do with them, and these were just some of the ideas that I came up with. So almost a year ago, my audience and I made a character named Damien, and I wanted to draw him kind of in this like sitting pose based on a reference reference photo that I found online. I still need to do something with this character, but I'm not entirely sure what yet. Right now I'm actually working on a comic called Imbalanced Diet, and I've kind of been working on that with my audience. What I really need to do is sit down and make all of my thumbnail sketches for it, and then once I finish that, eventually I would really like to do something with all of the characters that I've been making with my audience, but it is on my to-do list. I really enjoy drawing Damien. I like him. I like him a lot. And then this is Laurel Yanny, a beautifully horrible monstrosity that I created. I decided to make a character based on Laurel and Yanny, and it made sense to me to put her in the dress with the shoes and the nail polish. So after the whole like Laurel Yanny thing hit, I decided to go ahead and try to make a character that was like the personification of this internet phenomenon with things like the dress or the shoe. Laurel Yanny is just one of those weird internet phenomenons. And that is why this monstrosity exists. Like many artists, I am terrible at drawing backgrounds. I'm terrible at perspectives, but I found out that Procreate actually has a perspective tool, so I tried to make like a mall background. I wanted to add a bunch of detail and stuff to it, but I never did. A bunch of unfinished art. That's all a sketchbook is. It's like a refrigerator. It's where you store your leftovers. This one is a scribble that just went nowhere. I didn't like the shape of the face. I didn't like the way that the color was going. I really didn't like any part of it, so I scrapped it, and now it sits there taunting me. I don't even think I named it. Nope, I didn't even name it. That one was just bad. I did not like the way that drawing was coming out, so I just completely scrapped it, took the color palette, and started over on a completely different page. And this one ended up being something that I really liked. I was also playing around with noise. I like how it looks like an old television. There is nothing else that I want to add to this drawing. It is completely finished as far as I am concerned. So there is at least one piece in here that is completely finished. If any of these look familiar, it's because they're all just a bunch of redrawn versions from an older sketchbook. Some of the characters I really liked, and I wanted to potentially bring them all into the same universe. So I went through one of my old sketchbooks and I found a bunch of characters, and I thought it would be interesting to kind of imagine them all being in the same universe. And that's also where this drawing called Underside comes in. Part of the backstory for one of the characters was that I had imagined them living in kind of like an upside down world called the Underside, where it's almost like gravity works in reverse. So there's just bridges and platforms hanging from the earth and trees that are deeply rooted into the planet, and beneath them is nothing but this abyss of stars and sky. This was very largely inspired by the idea of an upside down sunset. It's hard to describe, but in my brain it's very pretty, and once again, a drawing I did not finish. This one is just me practicing eyes, pretty straightforward. There was one specific pair that just came out really, really well, so I decided to redraw them with like more intentional line art. I'm also very happy with the color, even though it's very simplistic. This one is super not finished. If I'm remembering correctly, this one was inspired by a bunch of Overwatch artwork that I was seeing all over the internet, and it went nowhere. I think where I went wrong with this one was that I tried to draw this really intense close-up rather than drawing a smaller picture and cropping it, and I think it just got really overwhelming really fast. So I started coloring the face, and then I moved on. This one I really love. This one was completely inspired by Star vs. the Forces of Evil. Crystal got me into that show, and it's great. So I made an original character like a loser. I imagined her being some kind of a cross between a gargoyle and a yeti, but I'm not 100% sure. I liked her being sassy and purple and blue. I tried so many different designs for her hair before I figured out what I wanted, and naturally it was an undercut. I wanted her to feel very like cold as a character, but also very like powerful. I did not finish coloring the leggings, the eyes, or the earrings because I actually made a second version. I liked the first one, but I wanted to try drawing a second one just to see if I could make it any better. I'm okay with the revised sketch, but it still feels too like angular and pointy, so I think I'm probably just going to stick with the first one. Magicia. Scott the Potato tweeted, "Every time I watch a Stephen Bridges video, I always realize how inferior I am to him as a magician." To which Crystal responded, "Lies, you are the best Magicia." And for some reason, I just got the word Magicia stuck in my head, and I kept saying it over and over again to myself to the point where I had to make a drawing about it. And that is the only reason this entire drawing exists. If I remove the text, you could put pretty much anything there. It could also just be me with a rainbow. So for a while on Twitter, the hashtag #DrawThisInYourStyle was going around. I love art community trends. They make me really happy. They're the most fun. And I was scrolling through that hashtag and I was like, I want to participate. And I found this drawing by Puka Noodles and I really liked her character. So I did the challenge and I drew her character in my style and then I never posted it. So even though this hashtag is from quite a few months ago, I should probably post it. Whoops. Remember this color palette that I really liked from this drawing that I didn't finish? Well, I tried again. Still didn't finish it. It's a good start. I like the line art. I did nothing with the color. I just don't know what to do with this color palette. Like, I've tried multiple times and I can't make it work. I just wanted to draw like a cute character in a box, and then I saw that color palette and I was like, oh, this will be perfect. Nope. Mark my freaking words, someday I will figure out how to use that color palette. I really felt like working with charcoal, but at the time I didn't have any, so I decided to try and use all of my charcoal methods in this digital sketch. I do like how it came out, but it also feels very like incomplete. It feels like something that someone tried to render, but that it didn't render all of it. There is one more drawing, but I just started it and I want to finish it more before I go any further. Random announcement, I have new merch. Exciting. Crystal has helped me finally set up my merch store, which is great. She is an angel. YouTube is being very weird and broken, so if you would like to buy my merch, I would greatly appreciate it. There's leggings and shirts. I'm so excited to buy my own merch. If you guys want a Procreate related tutorial, please let me know in the comment section. Just post a bunch of questions and I'll give you guys a bunch of like tips and shortcuts and things. I am going to give you 500 awesome points for making it all the way to the end of this, but I don't even know what video, and hopefully I will see you later. Goodbye. I'm just gonna go die on the floor now. This is where it ends.